Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
We are autonomous robotic organisms from the planet Cybertron.
But you can call us Autobots for short.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show. If you're listening to us live, it is the 17th of November 2014.
It's actually 8 o'clock. We're live on time.
Yeah, 2 minutes after 8, but it's very close to it. There's only around about 6 weeks left before the end of the year.
Yeah, scary to think, isn't it? How quickly this has gone, and then how quickly we're going to have to be working out our worst films of the year, and how quickly I'm going to have to watch that one, and you're going to have to watch that one.
Yeah, our list. But I think this year, with the idea that I've got for our awards, I've simplified it more so. So I think they're going to be much more easier to do this year. But we'll get into that ourselves very close to the time. But we're not here to talk about awards and stuff like that. We're here to talk about new films, new releases. And in the cinema section, we're looking at these two films.
We've got Benedict Cumberbatch playing one of the fathers of the invention of the computer with The Imitation Game. And then we've got Tom Hardy leading not all star cast, but a several star cast in The Drop.
Yeah, and on Blu-ray and DVD, we sort of have a summer blockbuster kind of season in November with these releases. Yeah,
quite a selection of films to go through that. I don't know if any of them I can say are just the worst, amongst the worst films in the year at all, which is when we've got in here House Train Dragon 2, Transformers Age of Extinction, 22 Jump Street, I almost said 22nd Jump Street there, Earth to Echo, The Purge Anarchy, and House of Magic.
Yeah, and on top of that we have our TV movies of the week, the Blu-ray and DVD top 10, the box office top 10, and some movie news. As usual, you can take a look at our website. I didn't know how I was going to structure that there, but make sure you visit the website mondaymovieshow.co.uk. You can get us on Twitter. I'm at Cryptic Tadpole, Andrew's at EHDVD or at Monday Movie Show, facebook.com/Monday Movie Show, or email us mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com. That's the spiel out of the way. Let's kick things off with movie news. Yeah,
but I've got one, but you've got one that leads into it, so I thought you were going to do yours first.
No, you can go and do yours first.
Okay. I thought yours was first. Marvel recently announced that Robert Downey Jr. would reprise his role of Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, in the next Captain America movie, currently subtitled Civil War, which will see the superheroes pitted against each other rather than against a common foe. It's now been announced that Rush actor Daniel Bruhl has joined the cast, and it's not known what role he'll play, but website Variety has claimed that Bruhl will not only be starring in Captain America Civil War, but will also be starring in another Marvel movie, Doctor Strange, as the main villain of that movie.
Yeah, Daniel Bruhl sort of like expanding his wings a little bit more. He's a really, really good actor, and he's sort of got that tinge to his voice, hasn't he? Where you can sense evil in it. So it's an interesting casting.
He's great for playing sort of someone who's kind of evil in Inglourious Basterds. And I mean, he's even better in Rush, in which case he's playing a guy he's not evil, but he's got that kind of side to him about someone who's obsessed and push things and doesn't really care who's in their way, sort of thing. So yeah, he's quite good for that.
Yep, it'll be interesting to see how he handles it, but he should be fine. Like I said, I've got some news that sort of ties into Captain America, but it's more Marvel related, in the fact that according to Deadline, the Captain America Winter Soldier directors Anthony and Joe Russo will take over from Joss Whedon for Avengers Infinity War, the two-part Avengers movie with part 1 set for a May 2018 release.
I don't know exactly how to feel about this. As much as I love what the Russos did with Winter Soldier, we don't know if that was just a fluke or if that was all skilled. I guess we'll find out with Civil War, but I'm a bit Joss Whedon, he is the person to go to for this kind of thing. So I mean, do I think they can do the job well? Yes. Do I think they can do it as well as or better than Joss Whedon? Probably not.
See, the thing that I have the slight worry about is I like the way Marvel has actually tackled things. The Russos weren't involved with the first part of Captain America, but they did do the Winter Soldier, and they are doing the next Captain America film. So just keep the Russo brothers with the Captain America part of the Avengers. And the same with keep one director with, say, the Iron Man part of the Avengers, or the one director, or maybe somebody separately with the Thor. Keep Joss Whedon with the Avengers part. So instead of like moving them from Captain America to Avengers, don't do that. Keep Joss Whedon with that, because then at least it gives them directors, in this case Joss Whedon, time to think up the best storyline, how to structure the movie. Look at the way the other films leading up to the next Avengers film are structured, and tie that in properly, rather than getting the Russo brothers instantly, as soon as they finish the next Captain America film, to quickly work on the next Avengers movie. So instead of doing that, keep with the directors who they've already got.
It's also a little bit more concerning for me as well that the Russos did a fantastic job of crafting a comic book movie that was based around a political thriller, and so for that it didn't need to be have a lot of humour in it. It had little bits, but not anywhere near as much as any of the other films. It's probably the least funny film of all the Marvel films so far, and yet the problem is then Joss Whedon puts a lot of humour into his things. Look at the first Avengers films, there's plenty in there. Look at the next one, there's guaranteed to be loads in there. Are they going to be able to put in a lot of humour? I mean, I know they did. The thing I like, and I'm aware of them, is because they did a brilliant comedy show called Community, which has been around for a few years now. It got cancelled, but it's being brought back by Amazon, and that's a comedy series, and it's genuinely a lot of fun and very funny moments in there, which they could quite easily do something like that in the Captain America films. It would be perfect. But the question is, will they, how are they going to stick with it? And if they're going to just do Infinity Wars being dark and serious and little humour, because that doesn't necessarily work for every comic book movie. Look at Guardians of the Galaxy, how incredibly funny that was, and how successful it's been largely because of that.
What is also interesting is the fact that each film has got their own taste, has got their own style, and that's down to the different directors tackling them. So it would mean that I don't think that's not to say they would actually do this with Avengers, the Infinity War, but would they bleed their style that they used for Captain America into Avengers, and how will that turn out? So we'll see, because if you look at the trailer for the new Avengers film, Age of Ultron, it's got a dark feel to it, but that's the way most of the Marvel films look in their first trailer anyway. They always have a dark feel to it, like it is the end of days. So we'll see.
I'm also looking forward to the one thing I will say that I'm glad about, whether or not it's them or Joss Whedon, I'm glad that it's the same director for both parts. I hate when they do part 1 and part 2 and they have different directors. Yeah, but it seems that a lot of films are learning from that. They did that with Harry Potter film. It was David Yates who directed the last couple of Harry Potter films. The Mockingjay Part 1 and Mockingjay Part 2, both same director. By Francis Lawrence, yeah.
Yeah, so they learned. Hollywood's learned a lot more from actually keeping the same director on the last 2 parts. Mm-hmm. More news is, according to the Daily Mail, Christoph Waltz will play the bad guy in the next Bond film. The paper took to Twitter and said, #Christoph Waltz signs for Bond 24, which is the longest hashtag ever. Shoots early December, Mexico, Morocco, Austria, Italy, and London.
I gotta say, this is inspired casting. I love this. I think he's absolutely perfect for it. I think he'd absolutely be brilliant, and as long as he's not playing it for fun, for gags, like he was the villain role of Green Hornet, which was terrible. It was just horrible the way he was made to do in that film.
Yeah, because the other rumour which was circulating around is that Chiwetel Ejiofor was going to supposedly be cast as the main bad guy in the next Bond film. But I think Christoph Waltz would work out much better than Chiwetel Ejiofor.
You know what? I wouldn't mind Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Go for a double header.
Yeah, the two of them. Don't have it be Bond villains that are a Bond villain. Don't do the typical thing, because Sam Mendes does this. He did it with Skyfall, and if he's doing it again, he'll do something different. Don't have it be 2 bad guys that are a bad guy and his henchman. Have it be 2 bad guys.
Yeah, it'll make it much more interesting then. double the turmoil for Bond. It might actually make me slightly more interested in it. Doubtful, but you never know. More news. According to the Hollywood Reporter, Mark Boyle, the writer of The Hurt Locker, has been brought in to polish up the script for the Uncharted movie. Boyle previously work also included Zero Dark 30 and is said to be a huge fan of the video game.
Okay. I don't have a problem. You hear about people being brought in to write up, rework on scripts, and it happens a lot more than you hear. And lots of times, I mean, Joss Whedon, for example, talking about him, he is basically one of the go-to script doctors for a lot of things. I know for a fact, and it was never confirmed, but you hear about things. He's touched on things like Speed, the movie, the Keanu Reeves movie, and he's been on lots of other films like that where his name is not mentioned or connected with them in any way. And yeah, he's been brought in to be go through them, add a couple lines here, change a thing, say, you know, this worked better. So it happens. So I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah, according to by the looks of it, it is just going to be a touch up on the script. It's not going to be a completely rewrite because they've only brought him in for a couple of weeks. For I'm guessing because he has got good background in movies like The Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30, and then maybe he's want to add a darker, more realistic undertow to the film. And it's also nice that he is a fan of the video game. He has played the video game as well. So
it's probably going to be something like dialogue that he'll be working on to clean up some dialogue if they're not sure about it. Because
if you've played the Uncharted games, and if you've seen the trailer for Uncharted 4, which is due out next year, that looks like a very dark and brutal game, like they did with the reboot of the Tomb Raider series. Yeah. So it looks like it's going down the darker route. And I would actually, surprisingly enough, I would like to see a movie based on that dark Tomb Raider series. So like reboot the Tomb Raider series, but make it dark and get Rihanna Pratchett, who worked on the story for Tomb Raider, to actually write the script for it. I think she would actually be able to handle it really well and might bring Tomb Raider back to the forefront. Yeah, somebody like that. Final piece of news is, now this is under the rumour category because this site is known for releasing rumours, and it could be a major spoiler, but like I said, it is a rumour.
Then, by any chance?
No, Latino Review, the site who is notorious for leaks when it comes to films, have supposedly revealed who the main bad guys are in Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
Okay.
According to the site...
Let's just say, if anyone is not wanting to hear this, not sure about this, then mute us for 30 seconds and I will time you, Stuart. Go.
According to the site, the Inquisitors will be the main evil. The Inquisitors are Force servants / protectors of the Sith.
You still got 20 seconds. We've got to wait for anyone who's not interested in waiting 20 seconds then. Can you stretch it out? We can stretch it out. 15 seconds we've got left. We've got to come up with something. No.
Inquisitors, do you know who they are?
I have no idea. I don't really. I know the films. I know some of the stuff, but I don't know the books. I don't know if this is following them or not, being faithful or not. 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
If they are, if the bad guys are who I think they are, I'll not mention them again, just in case people have retuned back in. But if they are who I think they are, they have ties to the video games. Okay. Because these bad guys supposedly, they just ring a bell, but they're supposedly cropped up in the video games. So I wonder if they are going with that, and they're very sort of like pale, stoic kind of looking bad guys.
That's enough. You'll give them away.
No, there's loads of pale, stoic-looking bad guys in the Star Wars games, and I'm not even specifically saying which one, because I'm not going to say which one they're from. But it's an interesting way to go down that route. If Latino Review, who they are a website who they're very hit and miss with their leaks, if it is true. But we'll see. Right, it's UK box office top 10.
Starting off at number 10 with Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day, which I know you've not seen, but it's a typical Disney of the 80s kind of film, that kind of ilk. There's nothing in it offensive. It is rated PG because of that. There's nothing in it that will take it to a 12. And it's not bad, it's not brilliant, it's not great, it's okay. It's that kind of thing that you can take your kids to, and it's a family film. They'll get some laughs out of it. You might laugh at a couple of moments with Steve Carell. I'm not a massive fan of his, but I did giggle at a few points in this, and it's okay. It's nothing exceptional, and there's nothing wrong with that.
The only time I've liked Steve Carell sorry, the only time I've liked
kind of reaction you normally have to him.
Pretty much. The only time I like Steve Carell is obviously in Despicable Me. Obviously.
I was going to try and do the Groot voice, but I won't.
No, I wouldn't.
Number 9 is The Maze Runner.
Yeah, which is perfectly serviceable. I can't even speak now, and that frog in my throat has just took away my words. It's fine for what it is. He changed the words there. Yeah, it is definitely fine for what it is. It's a good starting point for the series. Just hope that it doesn't run into problems in the fact that it seems to be copying what the Hunger Games is doing with their series. However, the Hunger Games will have a good year's head start, and by the time the Mockingjay series finishes, which is next year, the Maze Runner will have only been under its second film. And so we'll see how it turns out, the second film. But it's a good starting block.
Yeah. I was just trying to think who it was. It's 20th Century Fox who does it. So they're not the ones... Because, I mean, it's Lionsgate who does Hunger Games and also Divergent, who's got the two sort of most successful of these teen adaptation books to film that are on at the moment.
Have you seen you just mentioned that. Have you seen the teaser trailer for the next Divergent film, Insurgent or something?
I have, yeah. It was... Yeah.
It reminded me of the opening sequence to Saints Row the Third.
No, I've not seen that.
Video game.
At number 8 is Nightcrawler.
Jake Gyllenhaal just smashing it out the park again. He's an actor, in my opinion, who can't do no wrong. He's been in some fantastic films, and this is another one to add to his quiver. His character is so deplorable and nasty that you don't care that there's a likeable character in the film for you to latch on, because his performance is just outstanding. Renée Russo, it's nice to see her back in films and playing the character that she does in the film itself. Riz Ahmed, who is the actor in the film who's sort of like got any humanity to him, and you feel sorry for him at times in the film. But it's dark, it's brutal, it's very brutal. It's top end 15, but it's brilliant. I really like Nightcrawler. It'll probably sneak into my top 10 of the year.
I think it's going to be in there the same way, not as high up, but definitely the same way for me as Drive was.
Yeah, if it doesn't get into my top 10, it'll definitely be on my honourable mentions.
Yeah. I feel that I don't suspect will be in your honourable mentions for good films, at least, is Ouija, number 7.
Yeah, it just gives a bad name to horror films. I've been seeing that Jason Blum is the saviour in now. By the looks of things, he might be the killer of horror. But you have to realise also that Michael Bay has got his grubby mitts all over this movie as well, because he's Ghost House Productions and Blumhouse Productions teamed up to release this film. So yeah, I think it's Bay's bad toxic influence that's infected Jason Blum, because at least Blum can actually take a break from horror film with Whiplash, which is out very soon, and it looks an amazing film. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for now, but Ouija is awful.
I do want to ask you something about that, about Michael Bay being involved with it. Does it have the typical, moments where you go, that's a Michael Bay shot, that's a Michael Bay shot, that's a Michael Bay shot, as the number 3 film does later on?
It has typical moments of that's a Michael Bay shot if you've watched any Michael Bay's reimaginings of horror films back in like the early noughties, when he did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the Hitcher and things like that, when he got first-time directors on to coach them supposedly on how to make movies. It's got those kind of shots in it, even though I quite like the reimagining of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay, number 6 is The Book of Life.
Fantastic animated film. It's got some really funny moments, it's got some really dark moments, and the marionette puppet like animation is just beautiful. The film itself is funny as well.
Okay, I was expecting more from you there.
No.
Number 5 is Fury, which is David... what is David Hayter? It's not David Hayter, it's David... Russo. David Ayer, yeah. Why am I thinking Russo? Oh, yeah. David Ayer's latest movie, which is... It's set during World War II in a tank group that are fighting the end of the World War II against the Germans, and it's perfectly well put together. But it's very much the same kind of thing that David Ayer does with his police things that he's done up to now, which is the interactions between the people, which is nothing bad against it. But the thing about it is that when there's scenes when they're not in the tank, and they're out of the tank, and there's a scene in particular where they're in a village with a couple of women there, and it doesn't know what to do with the scenes. It doesn't know what to do with people sort of in those kind of normal situations outside of the norm. But it does the tank sequences and the action sequences in the tank during battle are very expertly handled, very well handled, and get a great performance from all the cast, including Shia LaBeouf. Number 4 this week is Gone Girl.
Yeah, it's not David Fincher's best film. He's got much better films out there. It suffers from the same problem, in my opinion, as The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. It doesn't know how to end itself. It's got some very good acting from Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike. You don't know which side to actually land on with both of them two, but it's just he needs to reel back his endings a little bit. He needs to think about how he's going to close his movies.
I agree, but I like him. But I don't have so much of a problem with the ending as you do. But I do think it was because I've only seen it the once, and I did think the end of it was very abrupt. But apparently, that's very faithful to the book. Number 3 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the other Michael Bay influenced films in the top 10.
Yeah, not as bad as people make it out to be. It's the second time Michael Bay has worked with Jonathan Liebesman, and the first time being Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But it's still not a very good film at all. It can destroy people's childhoods if you've got fond memories of the original Turtles movies. Yet when you go back and watch those original Turtles movies, they aren't as good as you might think they are. So it's very miss, but it's tolerable.
And it has some, I have to say, some really nice action sequences. The action sequence in the middle, there's a chase on a truck. I found to be genuinely thrilling and enjoyable and competently edited to follow. You didn't get lost with it.
It's sort of like G.I. Joe. The second G.I. Joe film, that it's got one decent scene in it, but the rest of it surrounding it is just a bit meh, to be honest.
Very true. And so I think it's making a surprise movement up the chart to number 2 is Mr. Turner.
Yeah, rose from number 7.
Yeah, which is nice to see because it is a very good film. It's very well acted by Timothy Spall as the artist. I forget what his first name is, but the artist Turner. Yeah. I'm going to get slaughtered by someone, I'm sure, for saying that wrong. But he plays. The thing with it is that it is a film that's far too long. It is 2.5 hours long, and I'm not saying that just because it's 2.5 hours. I'm saying that because there are other films in the top 10 chart, including the one that's coming up next, which are over 2.5 hours long and don't feel as long as this did. And that is a bit of a problem with it. But I do like it. I think Timothy Spall's fantastic in it. I think there are scenes in it where it has these moments where it's showing him not the painter, but the person, which kind of influences you on how he was and how he did things and why he did the painting. So I like that and I get that about it. I just think it's got this problem of editing and needing to be edited down a bit, but it has these scenes in between that are fun, that are enjoyable. You just left kind of at the end going, did it need to be that long? And honestly, I don't think it did. At number 1, new entry this week, surprise, surprise, it's Interstellar.
Yeah, it's the highest opening for a film since The In-Betweeners 2, so a few months back. So well done to Christopher Nolan for that. It's not the stellar movie that a lot of people are making it out to be. There's a show that both me and Andrew actually listen to, which features one of my personal favourite movie critics on there, and it seems to be that they're reading out praise beyond praise for the film, that people have gone to see it and seeing that it is the epiphany of movies, that it is the best thing they've seen this year by a long shot, that it is it's just outstanding movie it is. But unfortunately for me, it's not that brilliant. It is still a very, very good film, a very well put together film. It just does have a few problems in the way I thought that the disconnect between Matthew McConaughey's character, who plays the father, and his daughter was just too quick. It just didn't establish much of a relationship there. It didn't seem like there was much of a strong relationship there between them. And the end, it got bogged down in itself to try and be over intelligent than what it was, and it could have easily handled some parts of it very simply rather than the way it did it. And the last 10 minutes is just pointless.
I have to agree largely with you on that, but I did enjoy it a lot more than I think you did. I also didn't have a problem with it because I didn't have a problem with the whole time thing of it, which I'm not trying to spoil anything. I'm not going to go any further into that, but I didn't have a problem with that because that kind of thing I tend to follow quite well in a film if it's well done, and so I enjoyed it. I think it's really good. I've had the soundtrack now and really listened to it and really, really enjoying it. And it's a very offbeat soundtrack as well. It's very different, the kind of thing you normally get. And it it does get bogged down a bit sometimes in its own nostalgia, but I don't think it's a bad film, and I've seen it twice already, and I still haven't seen it in IMAX, which I want to see it, but I will be seeing it a third time, I know for sure, because my other half hasn't seen it yet, and I'm going to make sure she sees it, especially as a couple of her friends recently saw it, and both of them loved it, and weren't sure if they would or not. So, I think,
like we said last week, the one thing that I admire the most out of the film is the use of sound.
Yeah.
Is the fact that
and
the use and lack of
Yeah.
sound, where when you do get scenes where it's completely quiet, that's when you know that an audience is paying attention to a film or is just watching a film to mess around with. And when I went to see Interstellar, the audience was properly paying attention to it. So all this techno babble, all this stuff about space and wormholes and how they're constructed and how they work, was not baffling the audience. They were actually transfixed. They were actually interested in what was going on because the silent scenes were completely silent. And I love that in cinema. It's a very brave thing to do because you expect a movie to have a constant score to it or constant noises to it. And so when movies take that out, it becomes very nerving. And so I just love the use of non-sound in a film, and this gets it spot on. The last film where I thought they used non-sound the best was Dead Silence, the James Wan puppet horror film, because there are scenes in that movie where you see rocking chairs rock backwards and forwards and things move, and there isn't any sound. And so Interstellar is the film that reminded me of that. It's the non-use of sound, which I loved.
Just also take a quick moment to mention the odd thing about it is #1 here, but in America it didn't make #1 in its opening release week. Instead, it was beaten by Disney Animation Big Hero 6 even, which I've been interested to see if that had happened here. But Big Hero 6 doesn't come out till the end of January next year, so it's interesting to note that it didn't do as well. It still did fairly well, but it didn't do as well as it did here.
It's now #3 because #1 is Dumb and Dumber 2.
Yeah, that's
Right, on to our first review of the night. It's a couple of little small films because obviously with Interstellar being released last week and The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 getting released this week, the cinema's probably taking a little bit of a break, a tiny little bit of a breather. So it's a chance for the smaller films, a couple of films that we are reviewing that probably would not have been able to stand out as well if they were released a week previously or a week ahead. So The Imitation Game is directed by Morton Tyldum, whose last film was Joe Nesbo's Headhunters, which is a very dark and very strange film, but very well handled.
Very good film, yeah.
Yeah, and it stars Benedict Cumberbatch as Alan Turing, and it's set during 3 different time periods. In the film itself mainly focuses on Alan Turing in 1938, on the cusp of World War II happening. And at the start of the film, you see him actually in 1951, where he's been interviewed by a police officer who's played by Rory Kinnear, who's he says over in voiceover that you need to pay attention. You need to listen to exactly what he's about to say. You can't ask questions, don't say anything, wait until he's finished before you say anything. And so then it goes to 1938, and like I said, it's the start of the Second World War, and the secret organisation MI6, which is headed up by Mark Strong, and another secret organisation, is trying to crack the Enigma code. Now, the Enigma code was the coding that the Germans used to send out messages without any other country being able to crack it. It was a very impossible code. And so the organisation are trying to get people in who were really intelligent with code breaking or things like that to crack the code. And here's a clip that's sort of like the introduction to what kind of character Alan Turing is.
That's what you're doing here, the top secret program at Bletchley. You're trying to break the German Enigma machine.
What makes you think that?
It's the greatest encryption device in history, and the Germans use it for all major communications. If the Allies broke Enigma, well, it would turn into a very short war indeed. Of course, that's what you're working on. But you also haven't got anywhere with it. If you had, you wouldn't be hiring cryptographers out of university. You need me a lot more than I need you. I like solving problems, Commander. And Enigma is the most difficult problem in the world.
No, Enigma isn't difficult, it's impossible. The Americans, the Russians, the French, the Germans, everyone thinks Enigma is unbreakable.
Good. Let me try, and we'll know for sure, won't we?
So in that clip there, you've probably heard the way Turing actually speaks. It sounds like he's got a very cockiness to him, but he's only cocky with the kind of thing that he's intelligent with, and that's code breaking and cracking codes. During the film, you see of what kind of character he really is. He's a very timid character. He sort of like goes off to, well, sends a letter to Churchill to lead up this group, even though the commanding officer, who's played by Charles Dance, does not want this to happen. And so he uses a little bit of his power there by instantly firing two people. And so he decides to bring up this crossword and try to get a few more people to join the crew. And one of them is played by Keira Knightley. And so all of this is going on in 1938 when they're trying to create this huge, massive machine to be able to crack the Enigma code. Then back in 1925, we learn about what Turing was like as a young boy and how he was at this sort of like boarding school and how he was getting bullied all the time, and he tried to profess his love for one of the characters who plays a pivotal role throughout the film itself. And then, like I said, in 1951, it's when he's investigated for supposedly a burglary that happened in his apartment, in his flat. But then another thing that came to fruition where it involved, Turing was a homosexual, and it was practically outlawed. It was illegal back then. People were arrested and were either sent to prison or chemically castrated. And so the thing with the Imitation Game is it shows off a different light in different areas, rather than just maybe forcing you to concentrate on the cracking of the Enigma code and how that happened. What Morton Tyldum did is tell the proper true story of Turing. He could have left out the pivotal role about him being a homosexual and what actually happened to him in his later life after cracking the Enigma code. It's not giving anything away because obviously he did it. He cracked the Enigma code. He also, like I said, he concentrated on his life and there, on how hard it was for people in his situation to live, how much of a sort of like sheltered life they lived, and that's shown in Turing and what he's like in 1938 onwards, because he's a very recluse character. For him to actually keep his secrets to himself, he ends up doing something that he would never expected to do. So it's just interesting to see what his character was also like. It's also quite heartbreaking to see what he was like when he was a kid, coming to terms with what he was, because he did profess his love internally to somebody who became his only friend at boarding school, and then something happens to that friend, and like I said, it leads throughout the film, and I think that's very poignant. That adds a brilliance to the movie. You latch yourself more so onto everything that happens, because it's just what the machine that he creates, what that symbolizes. It isn't just the symbolization of freedom for the people who he managed to save their lives of in World War II, but it's just him himself. And so it's a brilliant character piece. Benedict Cumberbatch is outstanding in the film. He definitely deserves a Best Actor nod for this, because he's a very good actor, but this has shown that he's an outstanding actor. Keira Knightley isn't annoying, because I find her annoying sometimes, and she's not annoying in this. She doesn't do that stupid thing that she did in The Dangerous Method, where she talked through her teeth. She doesn't do this. She's got a very sort of like pompous feel to her, but she's got a down-to-earth pompous feel to her, because obviously she's been ostracised as much as Turing is, but she's been ostracised properly rather than Turing being ostracised internally. So everybody's on proper form here. It's just the only thing that's lacking slightly is how the secondary characters are constructed. They aren't given as much light or as much breadth as Turing, but the film itself is not about them, even though it is about the small little team who cracked the Enigma code along with Turing. It is mainly about Turing, and for that, it's a fantastic film.
You're right that it's more about him. It's kind of more of a biopic, but it's not. It's just because there's not much to reference of his life before going through the whole thing of Enigma, and then afterwards. But the thing that's good about it is it shows his character. It shows what he's like. You think he's a bit of a horrible person at first, but he's not. He's just very kind of stuck in his ways and very obsessive about what he does. And the thing that's really good is, I mean, there's even scenes in it where you see once he's broken the code and they realise it, there's a discussion which it actually got some gasps from the audience of the fact that, you know, that's just going to be kind of bad, but the decision of what they did when they figured out the code and how to break it and everything, and that they knew that the responsibility of that, what to do next, instead of just going, we've broken it, here's the code. And it's very hard hitting in that way as well, because of what things that happened and that led to and such.
Because it's just them 5 people who've got the ultimate power. Yeah. It's like you're in a room, a big huge massive room with a giant red button, and you've got the ultimate power to determine 11 million people's lives.
Yeah. And so it's very good in bringing that across as well. Then you had sort of in that moment in particular, the scene where there's the 5 of them standing there around talking and arguing over, and then realising, hang on a minute, we can't do this, we need to do this, and them going, well, but that's horrible, but that's what we need to do, otherwise this has all been for nothing. And it's just, there's moments like that throughout the film that are just genuinely brilliant and extremely well put together, but without being repetitive, which is what's really clever about it.
It doesn't fall into the pitfalls of these movies who attempt to sort of like mask the fact that they're biopics, because if you look at Mandela, A Long Walk to Freedom, and even Hitchcock, they try with Hitchcock. They try to centre around. It wasn't just about Hitchcock's life; it was about the creation of his most iconic film in Psycho. And Mandela: A Long Walk to Freedom. It tried to have too many cake and eat it too, beyond its doubts. So it never falls into that pitfall.
Well, it's the same thing as like Mr. Turner. Mr. Turner isn't about Mr. Turner the painter; it's about Mr. Turner the man. This is the same thing. This isn't about Alan Turing, the man who cracked Enigma. This is about Alan Turing, the man who coincidentally happened to crack Enigma. So it's much more focusing on the man than what he did, which is the thing that makes it much more engrossing and powerful and a great film.
Definitely.
Okay, so I'm going to go on to the other cinema release we're covering this week, which is The Drop, which is directed by Mikhail R. Roxam. It's written by Dennis Lehane, based on a short story that he himself wrote called Animal Rescue. And it's centered around the main character of Bob, played by Tom Hardy, who, basically what I'm going to do is play the clip, because right at the very beginning there's a little voiceover by him, and I've got this clip to play just now.
You see, in Brooklyn, money changes hands all night long. It's not the kind that you can deposit in a bank. But all that money, it needs to end up somewhere. They call it a drop bar. A bar the bosses choose randomly each night to be the safe for an entire city. You never know up front when your bar becomes a drop bar. You just take all the city's dirtiest money, and bagmen come and go from all over town, and nobody ever sees it coming. Nobody ever sees it going. And then they could tell you to be the drop bar next week. Or maybe even next year. The point is, you never know. In the meantime, me, I just tend bar and wait.
So he is the man who runs this bar, works this bar, which is is run basically by Cousin Marv, whose name is on the bar despite him no longer owning it. Cousin Marv is played by James Gandolfini, which is possibly his last film, maybe before his death. And the two of them are sort of running this thing. And he used to own the bar, Marv did, but then lost it. And as a result of that, Chechens are now in charge of it, and it's run by basically the Chechen mob. So every sort of day there are bets and such that are going on sports and things. This money gets put into a safe, and at the end of the day is counted up and then given out to them, and it all gets shifted around between the different bars, and that is what The Drop is about. But The Drop is more than about that. It's about the character of Bob, and at one point during the film he then meets Noomi Rapace's character Nadia, ends up sort of striking up a weird friendship with her because of this dog that he finds, and he also then ends up sort of finding out her troubles, her past, and the things that sort of tag along with her unwantingly, including an ex-boyfriend of played by Matthias Schoenaerts, who sort of is this sort of he's hanging around just because of what he can get, not for what he wants and stuff. And the thing is, it's a drama setting around this issue of the drop. There's a potential thing of that there is a robbing of the drop box one night before when it doesn't have a lot of money there. This leads to all sort of complications with the mob, while at the same time the whole thing of then what happens going forward, and the police involved and such and things like that. And it's basically, I'm going to say what I'm going to say about this, and not saying that it's crap, because it's not, but this is a film that, if it wasn't for the fact James Gandolfini had passed away, I don't think it would have got released in the cinemas. Tom Hardy is really, really good in it, but if it had just been Tom Hardy and no one else, like Numero Personnette a bit, and James Gandolfini especially in it, I wonder if it would have been given a cinematic release, because it's nothing special, there's nothing new you haven't seen before. Numero Pace is even pretty much playing the same character, the same role she played in Dead Man Down, and I'm not saying that bad about her, because she's good in this. That I actually like her more in this, because she's very much more reserved and a lot more timid as a result of things in her past. James Gandolfini is fantastic in it. It's great to see him giving a great performance, and Tom Hardy giving an equally great performance, because he's playing this guy who's he doesn't seem to be quite all there, but then you don't know whether that's a ploy, if he's put it on, or if he really is like that. And it's got some really nicely written, really well written dialogue and characters and scenes like that, but it's just that there's not a lot much else to it other than that. The story itself takes too long to start and get going in it, and finishes a lot long earlier before the proper ending of the film. And it just feels like, the thing is that it is based on a short story. It does feel like that. It feels like it's a short story, and then there's plus extra stuff being added so that it makes up the running time to a feature-length film. And that's a shame, because of the fact of the performances in it are brilliant. It's worth seeing for the performances, though there are other things that are out that you probably want to see instead. So if you've got a chance and you can, and you like James Gandolfini, you like these sort of mob crime things, and you like the ones that have a little bit of ambiguity to them as to whether or not you're watching the good guys or the bad guys, or who you want to root for, who you care about, and who you want to see off next, because there's a fair number of this person's going to get killed, this person's going to get killed, this person you pretty much see them and you know their days are numbered, that kind of a thing happening in it. And it has that serious tone and seriousness to it, which is what I really like about it. But I wish it had been on video and I'd seen it, and I would have thought a lot more of it than seeing it at the cinema, in which case it wasn't even 2 hours and it felt 2 hours, and it didn't feel 2 hours in a good way. So that's a shame.
Pity, with it being James Gandolfini's final film.
There's a lot worse films out there for actors who've died and then appear in a final film before they're gone from film altogether, and they're a lot worse than this. This is, I would say, there's no shame in him for this. It's a perfectly good film. It's just not up there with the best films that it could have been.
That is a pity, that. Right, that's it for the cinema section of the show. We will be right back with the home release section.
From page to screen.
So they have 9 times out of 10 they have to send it back to you unopened or just throw it in the garbage can.
Things don't always look exactly as we envision our life to look, but sometimes it works out and turns out even better.
Gregor Fisher, his bacon number is 2 because he was appeared with January Jones in Love Actually, and January Jones and Kevin Bacon appeared in X-Men First Class together.
I've got to say, the very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas, now that just makes me want to rush out.
It's about the acting and about the writing. That's really what theatre is for me.
Probably had more names than Prince or whatever. Never mind, there's a joke for the oldies. Everybody's like, who's Prince? Who's he? I'd just like to see Mr. Freeze hiring his bad guys going, right, okay, so you're a psycho, right, can you ice skate? Head over to iTunes, Spreaker and Stitcher and put in the search box From Page to Screen.
And we're back with this week's home releases on DVD and Blu-ray. Coming up in this part of the show, we will look at the UK DVD and Blu-ray top 10, and then a look at these new releases.
Yep, we've got animated sequel with How to Train Your Dragon 2. Michael Bay returns for the 4th outing with Transformers Age of Extinction. We have another comedy sequel in the form of 22 Jump Street. A very sort of like 80s-esque kids action film with Earth to Echo. Another sequel with The Purge Anarchy. And a small little animated film, House of Magic.
Yeah, quite a lot of sequels. I didn't think about that, actually. Yeah, we've got most of the films this week are sequels. So let's go straight on, though, into DVD Blu-ray Top 10.
At number 10 is Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, I'm surprised making a new entry this week, which is Disney's buy one get one free offers finished. So surprised to see they're making more entries, but I guess people are still out there buying them and after them. And Beauty and the Beast is one of the better ones, I'll say that, than some of the lists that we've seen popping up. But I have to be on otherwise I don't have them. But people who love the classic Disney animations, how come they're just buying them now? How come they didn't already have them? I'm surprised.
Yep, at number 9 is Godzilla.
Which I think is perfectly fine, except the fact that you need a big screen and you need a big sound system to watch it on. Without that, it's not really up to scratch, because I think it's very, very reserved, and I think the problem is there's too much focus on the characters in it, which you don't really care about. The main one being Aaron Taylor-Johnson. He's in it for far more than I would have preferred. I would have preferred Bryan Cranston being covered a lot more, and it's very unbalanced in my opinion. I enjoyed it. I liked it more at the cinema, and even though I've got a big screen and home cinema system, it didn't hit me with as much the second time around at home. So good to see. If you haven't seen it, as I say, big screen, big sound. Otherwise, not really gonna sort of satisfy.
At number 8 is The Hobbit: The Desolation of Smaug.
Yeah, entered into the top 10 again because of last week's release of the extended edition, which I do have, and I've watched. I have got around to watching it, even though it's 3 hours and 5 minutes long. And I have to say, I enjoyed it gloriously, loved it. And again, big screen, big sound, made a big thing of it. And the extras on it, the 2 discs extras of 10 hours of behind the scenes stuff, believe it or not, doesn't get boring. It's enjoyable, and it's the kind of thing that I live for, and I love to see these things get released, and I'm looking forward so much to the third one.
I'm not. And which
of us is reviewing that when it comes out, then Battle of the Five Armies?
Yeah, I would have probably been the one to jump on it because I loved the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but the Hobbit one has just disappointed me badly.
My other half has actually booked us tickets for the midnight showing of it, seeing the whole 3 Hobbits back to back. She doesn't know what she put herself in for. She hasn't seen Lord of the Rings yet, so I've got to get her up to scratch on Lord of the Rings first before Battle of the Five Armies comes out next month. So that's a challenge in itself.
That sounds like a good night's sleep. At number 7 is the new entry for Jersey Boys,
which is it's one of these things. Oddly, talking about biopics earlier in the early version with Alan Turing in Imitation Game. This is another one of those ones where it's not focusing on the music; it's focusing on the people in the. I want to say 4 seasons. Is it 4 seasons?
4 seasons. 4 tops. 4 seasons.
I can't remember which one it is. Yeah,
one of the two.
It's not my kind of music, so I'm not into it. But I don't mind the music in it because it's not focusing on the music; it's focusing on the characters and the people who they were, and that I found interesting. I think it's certainly though amongst Clint Eastwood's weakest films that he's directed. I think that because it's not doing the musical thing, which is based on the stage play, and it doesn't have that at all, except for the very end credits where it has like a sing and dance number, kind of like an homage to the stage play. So if you're going into this looking to see the musical Jersey Boys, you will not get that. Be aware of that. But if you're going into it and you like the band and you're interested in them and you want to see where they started, where they went, where they finished, then this is the one for you.
Yep, and number 6 is Maleficent,
which is really, as far as I'm concerned, Angelina Jolie's possibly worst film. I really think she's not great in it. I think that it's overall not brilliant. I think that it has a problem where she's been asked to act in front of green screen and she can't do it. And I think it's unnecessary because it's telling the untold story of Sleeping Beauty, what happened in the background and stuff, and it's rewriting history. So it's not necessarily needed.
Number 5 is a new entry for X-Men First Class / Days of Future Past double bill.
Yep, we'll get to that in a minute because it's further up the list.
And number 4 is The Fault in Our Stars,
which is a really good film, really enjoyable, but it is too long and needs a section taken out in the middle. Problem is, if you take the section out in the middle, which is where they go to Amsterdam, it wouldn't be as good because there are a lot of character beats in that half an hour. So I think I don't know how faithful it's been to the book, but I think that it's either been adapted too faithfully from the book without someone deciding and going, hang on a minute, this needs to be taken out and reworked, or it's been done very poorly and someone's gone and put stuff in there when they should have put it in at other parts of the film. Not saying that's bad. I liked it. I think it's good. It is a tearjerker, so have your tissues ready by the end of it. And it's a good film, just it's got these problems that are holding it back from being a great film.
And number 3 is Mrs. Brown's Boys, the movie. Yeah, that just explains it all. Yeah. And number 2 is Frozen.
It's gone back up!
Yes.
What are you doing, people? Why has it gone back up? I'm getting all excited because my voice is going high now. I'm going to break my voice. I sound like a 15-year-old boy. What? Just stop it! Stop buying Frozen! Ugh.
Settle down. And at number 1 is the new entry for X-Men Days of Future Past.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be number 1, but I mean, it deserves to be, actually, considering some of the weaker X-Men films there have been previously. And the thing I love about this is if you go back and watch it and you know the films, all of the ones that were quite terrible and bad, it kind of wipes them out and makes a reason for why you should watch them and then get to this point, and because it rewrites history. But it's rewriting history in a good way, because it's being faithful to the comics for a change and not just going, oh, well, you know what, we'll just finish it off here because we can't be arsed doing it properly.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm very issuey about the X-Men films.
You need a tissue for that then if you're very issuey.
No, no, okay. So going on to this week's new releases, I will go on with How to Train Your Dragon 2, which is the latest one from DreamWorks, the sequel to what I think is one of the best animated films. I love the first one. Second one carries on from where the first one finished, or where the town of Burke is now living. Everyone is peaceful with the dragons. Everyone is sort of learning to ride dragons. There are sports done it with these sheep where they catch them and throw them in herds, and it's everyone doing fine. Hiccup, our hero, voiced by Jay Baruchel from the first film again, though, and his dragon Toothless are meanwhile off discovering adventures and going out and sort of expanding the Vikings' knowledge of the world as he's building this map of things that he's known. Coming across an area where there appears to have been a weird dragon attack on some people, and also then another woman, a woman who is in charge of riding dragons, and she's in charge of a big massive herd of these dragons, who appears to be an enemy at first, but it turns out, surprise surprise, and this isn't a spoiler, is actually Hiccup's mother. Here's a clip.
He's beautiful. Oh, I've never seen a Night Fury this close. He might very well be the last of his kind. And look, he's your age. Oh, no wonder you get along so well. Unretractable teeth. Incredible. How did you manage?
I found him in the woods. He was shot down and wounded.
And what of this? Did Drago or his trappers do this too?
Oh, yeah. Well, crazy thing is, I'm actually the one who shot him down. Hey, it's okay though. You got me back, right, bud? You couldn't save all of me, could you? You just had to make it even. So, peg leg.
The thing is then that obviously this Drago who was mentioned in that clip is another person who's in charge of dragons, in particular charge of a big alpha dragon which is able to control lots of dragons, and he's then determined to capture all the dragons. So here's the thing with the whole thing of How to Train Your Dragon 2. The first one saw, absolutely loved it, was completely blown away. The animation isn't brilliant in it, but it's very, very good. What they've done here is they've done a lot better animation, and the animation here is fantastic. It's so much more than you could have dreamed of if you saw the first one and you liked it as much as I did. The second one has animation to a level that's so great that the dragons all have their own personalities, and it comes through so brilliantly. The character of Toothless, you can see the look on his face and the way he reacts and everything, and he's so full of emotion in his scenes, and there's certain things, and there's genuine moments in it where you feel for the characters, and that's the thing, as far as I'm concerned, that makes a really good animation, that you can interact and connect with them so well. It looks beautiful. The story is really well done. The story has some moments that are genuinely exciting, terrifying, and disappointing, upsetting, and there are moments in it like that, but it's a fantastic animated film, and I absolutely loved it. more than the first one, and that's really saying something because I was one of those people who really loved the first one, and I think it's a film that anyone who see, adults, kids, my other half saw it with me at the cinema when we saw it and absolutely loved it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again in 3D because I will be getting the 3D version of this.
Right. Surprise, surprise, I've still not seen the first How to Train Your Dragon. Even though I said I would actually go out and buy it on Blu-ray or DVD and watch it, I've still yet to see the first one. That's not to say I didn't like How to Train Your Dragon 2, because I went into the series pretty much blind. So I went to see this at the cinema on a whim, because I was the one at the start of the year and leading up to the middle of the year who reviewed all the animated films. And so this was the first. This was one of the animated films that I reviewed in the cinema. I absolutely loved it because it got the pacing and the fact that it didn't treat children with disrespect. It got that spot on. There are elements of How to Train Your Dragon 2, which writers who are writing a 12 or a 15 rated film would gnaw their arms off to actually be able to get spot on the way it's done in an animated kids film. So I respect them for doing that, and the animation is sumptuous.
This is PG as well, it's not 12,
yeah.
It's PG.
The animation is sumptuous as well. It's absolutely gorgeous to look at. The scene when you go into the huge the ice mountain itself for the first time, and when you see how cavernous and huge it is, but you also see the multitude of different dragons, how each one of them has their own personalities by just looking at them for the first time is just awe-inspiring. So the animation is beautiful. I loved it. I really loved How to Train Your Dragon 2.
It is fantastic.
Yep, and yeah, this is...
Here we go, people. This might be a rant. Be ready.
No, it's not going to be a rant, but come on, you cannot say that about the next film, which is Transformers: Age of Extinction. It's directed by Michael Bay, but who else did you expect the Transformers film to be directed by? M. Night Shyamalan?
Steven Spielberg?
Steven Spielberg should be able to handle that, but you can just imagine someone like M. Night Shyamalan directing a Transformers movie. He'll make so many twists and turns in it that nobody will be able to understand what the hell's going on. So instead of it actually starring Shia LaBeouf, so at least he's actually got rid of the dead wood in that front, he's brought in Mark Wahlberg. I don't know if that's any better, but anybody can, I think, better than Shia LaBeouf. And the film itself is set 5 years after the fight between the Autobots and the Decepticons, and now the Autobots is sort of like living sort of like in fear of themselves because this government agency has been set up to hunt them down, to get them off the planet. However, a Decepticon is sort of like working for them. And then the movie switches over to Mark Wahlberg's character, who plays Cade Yeager, who he goes to this old abandoned theatre, this cinema, and discovers a dilapidated truck. When working on the truck, he discovers that it is, in fact, an Autobot. However, not just any old Autobot. This is the master of all Autobots, Optimus Prime himself. The government are actually looking out for Optimus Prime, and yeah, things don't turn out well. Here's a clip.
Covered! Are you working with lasers? If so, I'm not coming in.
You guys have never seen a truck like this before. Get in here. Lock that door.
It doesn't have a lock.
Look at the hole in the radiator. Look at the size of it. Something blew a hole in it.
Yeah, so?
It's not normal steel. The shrapnel in the engine, it ripped all the connections apart. And watch, and this took some K-genius. You are gonna love this. Want to hook this back to a working battery?
Calling all Autobots.
Oh yeah. I don't think it's a truck at all. I think we just found a transformer.
And so Cade and his family are forced to go on the run. Hunting them down is Attinger, who's played by Kelsey Grammer, and also you have Stanley Tucci in the movie, who plays a guy who's been able to get now. What is the name of the sort of like the DNA? Yeah, the Transformium. God. He's able to.
It's worse than unobtainium, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got over Transformium and able to manipulate it to create sort of like Transformers, and you can probably tell how the storyline goes because it becomes stupidly predictable and pretentious, properly pretentious. Now, you can sort of give Michael Bay a slight little tap on the back, and I mean the slightest tap, like get your littlest finger and just slightly brush him, because he hasn't gone completely over the top with the cameras up the skirt and things like that. However, he has decided to switch to a stupid Romeo and Juliet-esque kind of plot interleaved in the film, where Kate Jaeger is constantly going on about his daughter, about how short her skirt is, why she's with this guy, is this guy a bit too old, and he's, as a matter of fact, he's got this law in his wallet, and he brings it out at random intervals saying, yeah, it is legal, by the way, what we're doing. So he seems to be more concentrated on his daughter's exploits rather than the end of the world, about these huge, massive, giant robots wanting to kill everything. The film is just stupid. It is stupid, but what did you expect from a Michael Bay film with the name Transformers attached to it? The middle bit sags like when you make a beautiful souffle and you bring it out of the oven and all of a sudden it just collapses on itself and you've just got mush. This is not a beautiful souffle to start with. This is like you've got the worst ingredients possible and you're expecting something tasty and you're eating mud. It just drops down to mush. It isn't even saved by the malevolence of Kelsey Grammer and Stanley Tucci. They decide to switch Stanley Tucci's character in the last third to make him go from somebody who looks like he's got power to somebody who's snivelling and screaming a lot like a 5-year-old kid in the back of a car asking, are we there yet? So it's just, the film itself is ridiculous. It's overly too long. It's not interesting at all. The set pieces aren't very well handled. And when it brings in the Dinobots, it's way too late. We've already lost patience and everybody needs to be put on life support because we've lost the will to live. It's bad, but I don't know what you expected.
Yeah. But I gotta say, I mean, I'm gonna get it here for sticking up for it a bit. It's better than the last two.
Anything can be better than the last two. Ebola is better than the last two.
Well, that's a bit harsh.
It is.
Because this one is actually, I mean, I'll agree it's definitely too long because there's a big chunk in the middle where they're on board a spaceship and it just, cut that out. Get that out of there. It doesn't need to be there at all.
The bit on the spaceship is very much like if Michael Bay had directed Flight of the Navigator. That's how it would have looked like.
But I didn't mind it as much as the last two. I didn't like it much, but it didn't bother me as much as it did the other two, which are just horrible films that no one should have to really endure, though I actually have them.
It's sort of like hypocritical it's sort of like hypocritical in my point of view because I've seen the film twice. I went to see it on a standard screen, then I went to see it in IMAX. So I saw it normally, and I saw the P in an even bigger screen.
I didn't even get to see it in IMAX. No, but I mean, I don't think it's entirely bad, and I just think it's a fact of that it's kind of a little. It's a little too much. It's too late. It could have saved this franchise and been earlier, but it's Michael Bay kind of realizing, oh, I'm making a mistake. Maybe I better do this, and then not doing enough. It's too little, too late. Sorry, that's right.
It's the film's ending is very much exactly like the ending of the last film. It's just Michael Bay just does not have the cojones to create a proper ending to end the series. Just end it. Put the last nail in our coffin because we definitely need it.
Well, this was planned to be the first one of another trilogy, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
This isn't even a part of a trilogy because it still actually harkens back to the previous three films, even though they've dropped Shia LaBeouf's character, just replaced him with a character who's very similar to it. It's Shia LaBeouf grown up.
Oh, God.
That's all it is.
Just think, in like 5-10 years, could be watching Shia LaBeouf films like Mark Wahlberg. Horrible thought. Okay, 22 Jump Street, which is the sequel to 21 Jump Street, which is based on the TV show of the 80s. If you don't know it, it's where police that were young looking, including among the cast Johnny Depp in his early heyday, are sent undercover into a school or into a place where kids would be to sort of find out what's going on and find the problem and then obviously find a person and arrest them. And this was a series that went on for several years. It was adapted then into the film starring Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum in the first film, who are back in this film as the same characters. It is basically business the same as usual. It is because of the fact that they say so it is, because they realise it's a spoof, we need to do same sort of thing. You know, why don't we do exactly the same things we did last time, because that worked and it's what everyone will be expecting to do, and that'll work this time. They actually say that in the film. I'm not kidding, and that's the kind of thing. And amongst people that tell them to do this, including saying the same things, is their boss, played by Ice-T. Here's a clip.
Same identities, same assignment.
Going back to high school?
Your ass look like you're about 50. You going to MC State. Somebody's out there, they cooking up a new drug. It's Adderall mixed with ecstasy, mixed with God knows what else.
Wipey?
No, you dumb. Wi-Fi stands for work hard, yes, play hard, yes. Now these kids take this and they get laser focused for about 4 hours of studying, and then they party like it's goddamn 1999.
We're going to college, for real?
Why every time you speak I want to throw the up? Infiltrate the dealer, find the supplier.
Apologies there, it was Ice Cube. I said Ice-T by mistake. It is them going back into the same thing they're doing, but this time, as you heard in that clip, they're going to college, not to high school. So here's the thing with 20 Jump Street. It's derivative of the first one, it's repetitive, but it knows it, and because of that, it's genuinely funny and fun and enjoyable as the first one. More so in parts, not so much in other parts, but it's definitely a great sequel compared to the first one, because the first one was a really good surprise. You didn't see it coming, didn't know what to expect. This time round, you saw it coming, you knew what to expect, and it still managed to be funny. And it's one of these better comedy films where it's better than anything you've seen, any of the comedies you've seen. For example, things like Ride Along and such that came out earlier in the year, which also had Ice Cube in it. And it's just fun, crazy from start to finish, and it's just honestly has moments in it that will have you cracked up. There is one scene in particular, I'm not going to say what it's about, not going to say where it is, but honestly, I have not laughed so hard and needed to try and stop and catch my breath in a long time watching a comedy film, and this film did that to me. That's really all you need to know, is it's funny, and you will maybe need oxygen during it.
Yeah, and this is probably the moment of the show where I dampen everybody's spirits, because I'm the killer when it comes to comedy films. The laugh test is 6 laughs, and in my case, it's 4 laughs, and I'm even thinking about reducing that just to give some comedies a chance. This doesn't need to do that, because it managed to reach 6 laughs in the first 15 minutes. The last time I did that was with Ted, and then the previous 21 Jump Street film. It's funny from start to finish, because the chemistry between Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill is spot on. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller are the directors of this, and they did the Lego movie and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and they're just brilliant. They know how to get the best out of their actors and know what comedy timing is all about. It isn't just about rude jokes, which there are a few in this film. It's about the chemistry of the characters as well, and that needs to work for you to find it funny. And a lot of these people which seems to copy that kind of blueprint don't work, because the characters are just deplorable and you don't like them. In this, you really do like the 2 characters played by Tatum and Hill, and so everybody around them also is having a lot of fun. And so it's not just when you hear that if people have fun on the set of a film, that the film itself is not going to be that fun to watch. I think they had a lot of fun creating this film, and it definitely is a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think it's brilliant, and it's one of those films that you will want to watch more than once, because I'm looking forward to seeing it again, because there's moments in it, as I said, just genuinely cracked me up, hilariously cracked me up.
Yeah, on the next film, it's sort of like a small budget kids adventure film, and the guys of the movies of the 80s, so everything from like E.T. to, I've mentioned Flight of the Navigator, things like that. It's Earth to Echo. It's directed by Dave Green, and it stars 3 young kids in Theo Helm, Astro, which that is actually his name, and Reese Hartwig, who play 3 friends in the form of Alex, Tuck and Munch, and they live on this huge massive estate. However, this estate is going to get pulled down and get changed into a highway, and so they've only got a few days left, and all of a sudden they start to receive very strange signals on their mobile phones. Here's a clip.
It like imitated my ringtone.
This is what made our phones barf?
Did you hear that?
Whoa, whoa, whoa. All right, so a couple of seconds ago, our phones went crazy, bananas, insane. I don't even know what to call it. Look. You see that? It's a new map, but on my phone this time.
To me or him? Or...
Dude, Munch's phone got all weird hieroglyphics and I don't even know what that is. Alex's phone, it just turned on by itself and started filming. We can't even turn them off. Don't try to act like it's not cool. That is weird.
It's showing us where we are.
And you don't find that creepy?
What do you think that is? You think that's a road?
We should follow the map.
How about no?
How about yes? We went here last night together. So what do you call this?
A trap?
And so the three friends, with the help of another friend, Emma, decide to team up with each other to try and seek out what this signal is. They discover, however, that it is from a crashed little spaceship which houses this little tiny alien who they are now called Echo. However, the government is after Echo. And so, like I said, it's very much like the blueprint and storylines of these kids' films of the 80s. And it feels like that. It feels like something that Spielberg would have created. Or even maybe J.J. Abrams as a director, I think, who's born of the 80s. You think that his movies were actually created in the 80s, and it's very much like Super 8. So it's like that, and that's the reason why I quite like the film. It's nothing special, but it has its heart in the right place. It has some very questionable special effects. One scene involves a truck being completely dismantled, then brought back together. But what you expect, it hasn't got a huge, massive budget, so it's not able to do, like, for instance, there's a scene in Super 8 where you see just lots of things fly up into the air and create this huge, massive ship. So it doesn't have that kind of budget to be able to do things like that, but it handles its budget well. The kids aren't annoying. Echo is so cute! I wanted a little Echo. When I first saw Echo and the noise that he was made, it just instantly switched me back to E.T. So it's just, I loved Echo. Echo is fantastic. And when you really like the thing that you're rooting for, then you know you're going to enjoy the film. Like I said, it's nothing special, but it's going to captivate kids who watch it, and it's going to entertain them for the 90 minutes that it's on for, and it never overstays its welcome.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, and I was just trying to think of a way to describe it quite succinctly, and I think it's kind of like it's Super 8 meets E.T. filmed in the style of Cloverfield.
Yeah, with hints of like
Flight of the Navigator and things.
Yeah, hints of Flight of the Navigator and things like that. So it's sort of like a homage to these kind of films. The director, he's probably a big fan of them, and I'm guessing he probably grew up in the 80s and watched all of these movies and thinking, I think we need to get that kind of feeling back again, rather than again just releasing a movie where it's all dark and depressing and things like that. We just need to have the adventure back into the kids' film, into the live-action kids' film, because we don't see very many of them. All these movies that seem to be catered for that audience are 12-year ones in The Hunger Games or Divergent or Mortal City, Mortal Instruments.
PG as well, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's nice to see a film where it is all about the family, and it's a kind of film that you would have sat with your parents when you were a kid to watch. So it's nice to see that again. But like I said, it's nothing any special. But I still applaud it for what it managed to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Okay, The Purge: Anarchy, which is the sequel to The Purge. It's written and directed by James DeMonaco. It is the whole thing of The Purge. If you don't know, the first film set in a sort of not too far future America, where one day a year has been set where there will be basically a night where people can purge themselves of violence, and with the exception of certain people in the government and such, then people are allowed to go out and murder and kill pretty much anyone they want, do any kind of crime, and they will not be held accountable for it. They will not be prosecuted on this one night that the whole of America can do this. So obviously everyone else who doesn't want to be involved in this try and get themselves sort of set up in their houses, set up tight and safe and secure. Unfortunately, some people find themselves not so lucky, as a couple who find themselves out and their car breaks down, find themselves sort of wandering the street, and they run into a character played by Frank Grillo, who's referred to as Sergeant, and he is a man who's out there with weapons himself. He's not out there to kill them, but he does have his own ulterior motives to be out there, and he's left sort of with a situation where he ends up rescuing them and ends up having to be sort of responsible for them while they're out there. Here's a clip.
Should never gotten involved. It's none of my business.
Okay, but you did, so it is your business now, all right? So what are we all going to do?
It's loaded. Take it. Take it.
Just giving us guns? Where are you going?
I got somewhere to be before the sun comes up. I can't take you with me. You'll slow me down.
We won't slow you down. You're really just gonna leave us here?
Stay off the streets. Find somewhere to go.
Please take us with you. We are not the kind of people who will survive tonight.
Let him go. All right, he doesn't want to help us.
Shut
Let him.
up!
What do you want me to do?
Why
Figure
did you
something
save
out?
us if you're just going to
Make
leave
him
us here
help
to
us.
die? Please help us!
Wait, I can get you a car. I have a friend in the city not far from here. I've worked with her for years. If you get us there safely, you can take her car and do what you have to do.
She give me a car?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna help you get to your friends, but I want that car.
I know.
All right, you listen to what I say. You stay close. You slow me down. I cut you all loose. You understand?
Yeah.
So then you have this whole situation of he's out there and they're out there and they're trying to survive while there are people going around obviously murdering and killing people. And it has this whole thing then of that it's the first movie was about a family in their house and trying to protect themselves and keep themselves safe while other people were trying to get in. This one takes it differently. This one actually takes the approach to the whole purge thing of being out in the street, showing it, but also shows the whole thing of how society has kind of been split between the rich and the poor, and showing the whole things of that there are the rich people that have people that go out, capture people on the streets and bring them to these kind of warehouses where they're brought there and they're in, sort of trapped in games for the rich to play with them and kill them as they will, and they basically have people that basically pay someone to be killed, and because they can kill them and get away with it, and they can purge themselves of their unwanted feelings and things. And that is what I like about it. I like that it's taking a look at the world differently than it had in the previous films. It opens it up. It does a lot more with it. There's not so much really interesting characters with it and interesting sequences with it as there were the first one, because it was very nicely contained and very well shot for being a small contained film in the first one. This one, so much the problem is it takes it out into a bigger world. It does a lot with what it's got because it doesn't have a very big budget. I think it was something like 10 million. Was that right?
It's around about 5-6 million.
5-6 million, yeah, it's not a lot, and it does a lot with that. But because of that limitation, it still doesn't manage to open up things as big as it really could. But I found it really enjoyable. I really thought it was good, and I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. I don't know that I'd say it's a better film than the first one, because the first one is more competently put together and done, given its sort of cramped surroundings. But this is definitely a worthy sequel. It's not a terrible film. It got a cinema release because it's one of those films that the sequel actually deserves to get cinema release. It doesn't. It's better than straight to video. So it's a good film. If you missed it at the cinema, fair enough. But you will probably want to see it on DVD because it's worth seeing if you like the first one.
Yeah, when I was watching the first one, I was thinking this film would be more interested if we find out more about different families and how they were able to cope during the purge itself, because the idea that they had with the first one is it just concentrated on one family and the turmoils that they're having to go through for the 12 hours. And so while I was watching that, I was thinking it might be an interesting idea to do that, and that's what they did with the sequel. But now I was thinking they got the idea correct with the first one, but I actually want to see how they're going to handle the first Purge, which by the looks of things, I think that's going to be the third film in the series. And that's not to say the Purge Anarchy is a bad film, because it's not. It doesn't have the tension of the first one. A lot of people didn't like the first one. I did, because it was a tension-filled film. It had some really dark humour to it. There is a scene which involves a shotgun and another one which involves a baseball bat, and it's brutal, but yet you snigger slightly. So it had tension. This film didn't have any tension until the last 20 minutes when it turned into The Running Man. But that worked for the film. I liked that part of the film itself. The characters, they were just a bit of hit and miss for me. I didn't actually care that much for them.
I can understand them not caring much for the characters, because we don't get to know them. But I would disagree with there not being any tension in it, because there's a scene, this is kind of spoiler but not, but there's a scene where they're in the middle and they find themselves in a house of people, and the people there are all fighting, and you can just, the way it's set up the way it's shot and the way it's, you can see you're seeing it through the eyes of the characters as they've arrived there, and you're seeing these things going. You're going, uh oh, this is going to kick off. This is going to happen. You're seeing it, and I thought that was very nicely handled. I really liked. I was sitting in the cinema. I remember watching that sequence and going, this is really going to kick off, and I can see it, and I like that, and I think it's very well foretold without giving everything away, and so I like that sort of aspect of it.
Right there, the final film is House of Magic, and it's a small little, I think it's Italian animation, Spanish animation.
Sorry.
No, that's not a language. That's just a noise. But it is, I think it's Spanish or Italian. It's from one of those, I think it's Italian. But it's a small little animated film, and it's directed by Jeremy DeGrusso and Ben Stassen. And it's centers around a small little cat called Thunder, a small little ginger cat called Thunder, who gets abandoned at the start of the film. Rain starts to fall, and it needs to try and find a home to live in. And so it's looking around around the neighborhood, and it comes across this evil-looking house. This house that all pets or people just seem to avoid. It managed to find itself into the house itself, but instantly gets kicked out by this rabbit and mouse because they don't like anybody else encroaching on the house. After the rain falls, it gets back into the house into the top of the attic and discovers that it's owned by this not cantankerous old man, but this old man who's managed to create little gadgets, and they're his only company, along with the rabbit and the mouse, who he uses in a magic act, along with two of the birds. Now, when an accident happens to the old man, he gets put into hospital, and his nephew decides to think, yep, I've sensed a bit of money here. I'm going to get a power of attorney from him, and I'm going to get the house for myself and sell it. Here's a clip.
Thunder, they're talking about fixing up at the house.
Oh, that's good. Then maybe that nephew is not all that bad.
No, it's bad. Daniel wants to sell the house behind Lawrence's back, and we'll all get kicked out.
Oh. Are you sure?
That's what happened to me.
What can we do? ¿Qué cosa?
I got an idea.
I would suspect the place is quite a handful to maintain for an old man.
Careful, Reg. We're on our way to our annual charity ball, you see.
Why don't we go on in, then?
Disgusting.
Daniel, stop these infernal...
And so Thunder, with the help of the rest of the inhabitants of the house, have to come up with plans to be able to stop the nephew from not only selling the house, but ultimately destroying the house. Now, the thing with the House of Magic is the animation is nothing to shout home about. It's very basic at its best. Now, it gets one scene right, and then it completely destroys that scene with the scene straight after. The scene that it gets right is when Thunder, with the help of the rest of the gadgets and things like that inside of the house, sort of like change it into a haunted house to try and stop these two guys who's been sent into there by the nephew to get all of the items out. They decide to turn it into a haunted house, and it's quite fun, that scene. But then it instantly gets destroyed by introducing a shotgun into a U-rated film. The nephew decides to bring a shotgun into the house to kill Thunder, to kill the cat. This is in a U-rated film, a film that is actually made for younger kids. It's not aimed at the older kids' audience. This is a younger kids' audience film, and there is a shotgun in it. It just completely destroyed the ghost house scene, and the ghost house scene was the best thing about the film. It's nothing to shout home about at all. It's nothing terrible. It doesn't belong with the Tarzans of the movie world. But it's just, the animation is so beyond par. It's the kind of film that you would have seen in the late 90s. And I'm surprised that it got a cinema release. I was just saying to Andrew there in the clip that in America it only took $4,091 in its opening weekend. And it's got a budget. Now, this is the surprising part. Remember, the Lego movie had a budget of $60 million. House of Magic has got a budget of $34 million. So the Lego Movie's budget is $26 million more. You would have thought that the Lego Movie's budget was $160 million compared to this. I can't see where the budget was spent. So it's the animation people need to hang their heads in shame, and the storytelling needs to hang their heads in shame, and the directors need to be just strung up for the way they're destroyed. Probably their best scene in the film.
I mean, the only I'm going to make on it is that I thought it was that interesting that when I saw it at the cinema, and my other half will vouch for this because she really wanted to see it. I wasn't that bothered, and so as a result of that, I not more than once kept continuously nodding off during the film. I kept struggling to stay awake, and it just didn't work for me at all. It might just be because I was maybe tired a bit as well, but I don't really. It's just a case of that. It was honestly, I was struggling to stay awake, and I didn't succeed even at that. So, yeah, that kind of tells you.
Yeah, Kat is in the live chat at the moment. I would like to know, Kat, what you thought of House of Magic, because I'm guessing that you might have stayed awake during the film. So I want to know what you thought of it.
I don't know if she'll actually say anything or not, but if she does, we will interrupt with that though. That's it for this week though. Before we go on to our movie of the week and round out things, let's have a look at TV movies of the week.
We're not sure what we've got because we haven't said this at the start of the show between us what we might have got. So
no.
You go first.
I think I got the same one. I've got two because we kind of.
I've got two.
Yeah. I think we might both have Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Nope.
On Thursday the 20th at 11:05 p.m. on Film 4.
I was going to go with Tucker and Dale versus Evil, but I think I might have done that before, so no, I didn't go with that.
I think we have, but it's still a worthy film because it's fun and it's enjoyable, and it's got a deliciously sick sense of humour.
Yeah, it has.
And then the other film, which is I think I have done this one before as well, but it's enjoyable. I like it. It's a little bit dumb, but I love the whole thing of the realism about it's done, considering it's an alien thing, and the way it's done. Basically, it is Black Hawk Down with aliens. It's Battle Los Angeles, and I think it's very excellently pulled off and done. That's on Friday 21st at 9 p.m. on Film 4.
And that's a Jonathan Liebesman film.
It is, who went on to do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, the less said about that, the better. The ones
Kat has replied in chat. She said that she loved it. Or she just said loved it. So I don't know that she's meaning what was it again? The House of Magic.
Yeah.
She could be meaning something else, or meaning one of the TV movies of the week.
Oh, yeah. My TV movies of the week is one is a slightly strange one because I don't think a channel has actually showed it before, and it's in the form of Apartment 143. Now, this is a found footage film, and it's surprisingly that I've gone for a found footage film as one of my TV movies of the week. It's actually a quite intelligently made found footage film, and there is a few nice little scares in it. It's on Film 4. On Sunday the 23rd at 2:25 a.m. So that's in the morning at 2:25. You would say Saturday night, but it leads into it's Sunday morning at 2:25. So you might need to set your recording boxes to record it. But as a found footage movie goes, it's one of the stronger ones. The other one is, I'm surprised you didn't see this, but it's on BBC Two on Sunday the 23rd at 11:30.
It's not Drive, is it?
Nope, it's Duncan Jones's Moon.
Ah, okay.
So Moon has been shown on BBC Two on 11:30 on Sunday the 23rd. I highly recommend you watching Moon. This is one of those films where it is a one-actor movie. And unlike with Locke, because Locke got on my nerves because of his accent, this is just brilliantly acted. It's fantastically directed. It's Duncan Jones's directorial debut. He went off then to do Source Code, and he is directing the new Warcraft movie, the new World of Warcraft film, and it's just expertly done. It reminded me a lot of the old science fiction films like 2001: A Space Odyssey, and films like that about how being on your own, how isolation can infect you. So I highly recommend people watching Moon.
It does have a great vocal performance as well from Kevin Spacey, similar to what Kiefer Sutherland did in Phone Booth.
Yeah.
So that's it for this week's movies. Movie of the week.
The Imitation Game.
I have to agree, Imitation Game, absolutely fantastic. And I shall be seeing that again as well, because my other half hasn't seen it yet, and she wants to see it too. So, but if you have a chance, as we did say earlier on, if you haven't seen it already, do make sure and see Interstellar as well on a big screen, which has big sound, because that's very good as well. So that's it for this week's show. I will give a quick round out of things as we normally do at the end of the week. Ask you, as always, to please check us out on mondaymovieshow.co.uk. You can also find us on facebook.com/mondaymovieshow. Please like us on there and you'll get updates as we do them on the site, because it does link through to there. You can also find us on Twitter at mondaymovieshow. Stuart is on there as at Cryptic Tadpole. I'm at AHDVD. And we're now also, as we've been doing it during the show and actually seems to be up and working, we are now on Podkicker, available on Android devices. So if you're an Android phone or an Android tablet, you will be able to access the show. Not only the newest episodes, but also the back catalogue of the shows is showing up there as well. So you'll be able to go on there and download and listen to shows. I think it's got as far back as now a couple of years. We've been running for 3 years.
Yeah, the last 100 episodes is on Podkicker, and it's just so nice to actually be able to offer the show in downloadable form. I will be looking into more avenues and more ways of being able to get the show, but iTunes seems to be out of the running at the moment. But at least,
annoying.
Yeah, it's been really annoying. But at least we're somewhere where the show can be properly downloaded now. So download the app on the Android Marketplace. It's a very good podcast app anyway, because I use that personally myself to listen to my podcasts. And so Podkicker, search for the Monday Movie Show on there.
It's also worth saying, if you do want to give us an email at all, you can let us know what your views of the films that we've reviewed this week, or films that may be in the top 10 next week. Give us a shout out through any of those mediums. Also, you can email us mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com. So also, just a quick other shout outs. We have our friends at Following the Nerd, followingthenerd.com. You have From Page to Screen with the number 2 in the middle.com, and also the Seren Foundation charity, which is serenfoundation.org.uk. So that's it for this week. We are going to round out the show now with a clip, as we normally do, of a film you may have heard of coming out next week, which we'll be reviewing, and that is the latest in the Hunger Games movies, Mockingjay Part 1. So we'll be back maybe next Monday, maybe next Sunday. Check out.
Not next Sunday. No, not going to happen next Sunday. No.
Okay, well, probably next Monday then. And we will confirm that near the end of the week. As soon as we can confirm that, you'll see that. And we will see you then. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
There has been rampant speculation about what really happened in the Quarter Quell. And here, to shed a little light on the subject for us, is a very special guest. Please welcome Mr. Peter Malark. Peter, a lot of people feel as though they are in the dark.
Yeah, I know how they feel.
Now, so set the stage for us. Talk us through what really happened on that final and controversial night.
Well, first off, you have to understand that when you're in the games, you only get one wish. It's very costly.